After weeks of traveling the world, Lauren once again set foot on familiar ground. The airplane, a luxurious model that reflected her high-class life, touched down smoothly on the runway, and soon the turbine's roar dwindled to silence. Lauren, with her impeccable posture, glided down the executive class aisle, her steps resounding with a determined tone. As she descended the jet stairs, a gentle breeze tousled her perfectly arranged hair, and she adjusted it with an almost unconscious gesture, her face maintaining an expression of elegant indifference. Outside the terminal, the cool morning air touched her face, prompting thoughts of the sauna at her mansion, the massage she had scheduled, and the well-deserved rest that awaited her. However, while waiting in the VIP disembarkation area, her thoughts were abruptly interrupted. A bent figure, wrapped in worn and dirty clothes, slowly approached. It was an elderly woman, whose tangled white hair and face marked by deep wrinkles told stories of better days. "Please, madam, could you spare some coins? I am hungry," said the old woman with a trembling voice, extending a trembling hand. Lauren looked her up and down, her face twisting into a grimace of disgust. Getting closer than she would have liked, the scent of abandonment emanating from the old woman bothered her. "Stay away from me!" Lauren exclaimed, her voice rising in a sharp and cold tone. "I have nothing for you, and please, keep your distance. You are smelling, and it is intolerable." Passers-by stopped, some with their luggage still in hand, observing the scene. The discomfort was palpable in the air. Some exchanged looks of disapproval, others murmured among themselves about Lauren's coldness. "Sorry, I was just asking for a little help," stammered the old woman, her words barely formed due to missing teeth. She turned slowly, her figure disappearing into the crowd, the weight of humiliation bending her shoulders even more. Meanwhile, an elegant man in a flawless uniform finished loading Lauren's designer luggage into an equally luxurious car parked a few meters away. "Everything is ready, Mrs. Lauren," he said, his voice soft and respectful. Lauren, adjusting her sunglasses, walked past him with a superficial nod. "Let's get out of here," she ordered, her voice still shaking with irritation. As she settled into the soft leather seat, she cast one last glance through the window, where the figure of the lady was still visible, now just a shadow among the city's shadows. The car pulled away, gliding along the road that cut through the city to her residence, leaving behind the uncomfortable scene at the airport. Lauren leaned back, closing her eyes, trying to erase the image of the desperate woman. But the shadow of that figure seemed to cling to her consciousness, an uncomfortable reminder of a world she preferred to ignore. Upon arriving at the grand entrance of the mansion, Lauren barely had time to get out of the car before two lively little figures came running down the marble path. Emma, with her golden curls bouncing with each step, threw herself into Lauren's arms with a joyful scream. "Mommy, you're back!" She hugged her mother tightly, as if trying to make up for all the days of absence with that single embrace. Chris, a bit more reserved but with a smile that lit up his youthful face, patiently waited his turn before hugging Lauren. "I hope you brought back the stories you promised," he said, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Of course, my dear. I have tales of distant cities and seas never before sailed by you," Lauren replied, laughing as she wrapped an arm around each of her children, leading them into the house. Martin stood at the grand entrance door, a warm smile spreading across his face as he watched his family come together again. "It seems our home is finally complete again," he commented as he hugged Lauren, kissing her softly on the forehead. "I missed you more than words can express." "I missed you too, love. But now I'm home, and everything feels right again," Lauren murmured against his shoulder, allowing herself a moment of peace before the busy evening she knew was coming. After a brief moment of calm and reconnections, the family got ready for dinner at the city's most sophisticated restaurant. Dressing elegantly, each member reflected the light and luxury their lives boasted. As they entered the restaurant, a murmur ran through the hall. Friends and acquaintances came to greet Lauren, praising her always impeccable appearance and asking about her travels. Over glasses of fine wine and delicately prepared dishes, Lauren shared anecdotes from her adventures, while Martin discussed business with old colleagues. Emma and Chris, though young, were gracious in their demeanor, chatting politely with their parents' friends. Mom saw camels in the desert, Emma excitedly told one of the family friends, her eyes shining with the magic of the unknown. Chris, a bit more reserved, talked about the ancient maps that Lauren had brought him, a gift that fueled his growing interest in geography and history. The evening progressed with soft music in the background and laughter filling the air. Each reunion was celebrated. Each story shared strengthened the bonds that time and distance tried to weaken. "We shouldn't let so much time pass again before we get together," Lauren insisted, her voice loaded with emotion as she toasted with a group of close friends. "Let's promise to make this a tradition, no matter where we are in the world," Martin agreed, raising his glass in a collective toast. As the night drew to a close, warm hugs and sincere promises of future gatherings were exchanged. The Stewart family, rejuvenated by love and communion, left the restaurant under the starry night sky, each heart filled with joy and the promise to keep the flame of unity alive, regardless of the distances they might face. The night had deepened by the time the Stewart family left the restaurant, a curtain of torrential rain descending over the city, turning the streets into slippery rivers of reflected lights. Martin gripped the steering wheel firmly, his eyes focused on the road ahead, while the windshield wipers struggled to maintain a clear view. "We should have waited for the rain to lessen before leaving," Lauren murmured, looking anxiously through the fogged window. "It's going to be all right, dear. We're almost home," Martin replied, trying to calm the tense atmosphere in the vehicle. Emma and Chris dozed in the back seat, exhausted from the excitement and the long night. Suddenly, a blinding headlight sliced through the darkness, followed by the sharp sound of tires on wet asphalt. A car at high speed appeared, zigzagging across the opposite lane. "Martin, watch out!" Lauren screamed, her heart racing from the fright. With quick reflexes, Martin turned the steering wheel to the right, trying to avoid a head-on collision. The car slid, losing grip and veering toward the sidewalk. A muffled scream sounded from outside, and with a dull thud, something heavy hit the side of the vehicle. Stopping the car abruptly, Martin looked back, breathing heavily. "Is everyone okay here?" he asked, quickly checking on the children in the back seat. "Yes, we're fine, but what about outside? What did we hit?" Lauren responded, her voice trembling with fear and concern. Martin opened the door and ran into the rain, approaching the figure lying on the sidewalk. As he got closer, his heart sank upon recognizing the elderly woman from the airport, now motionless, drenched by the relentless rain. "Ma'am, are you all right? Please talk to me," Martin implored, kneeling beside her. Lauren, following him, covered her mouth with her hands, horrified to see the same woman she had reprimanded earlier. "Oh my God, it can't be the same person," she murmured, guilt flooding her chest. "Lauren, quickly, call an ambulance. She's hurt," Martin shouted, checking the lady's vital signs, who moaned weakly. Trembling, Lauren took out her phone and dialed emergency services, her voice stumbling over the words as she explained the situation to the operator. "Please, send someone quickly. There's an injured lady here. We hit her with the car." As Martin tried to comfort the lady, keeping her awake, Lauren wondered how fate could have intertwined their paths again in such a tragic manner. She watched the rain fall, each drop a reminder of life's fragility and the consequences of our actions. The distant sound of sirens finally broke through the night, and flashing lights approached quickly. Martin looked at Lauren, his eyes full of concern and regret as the paramedics rushed towards them. Lauren, standing in the rain, felt the weight of every second, her heart tight with fear of what was to come next. In the hospital, the white and sterile corridor echoed with the sound of hurried footsteps and the occasional beep of medical equipment. Martin and Lauren, still soaked from the rain, followed the paramedics to the emergency area where the elderly lady had been taken. Seated on hard plastic chairs, they awaited news, their eyes fixed on the double doors that separated the treatment room from the rest of the hospital. Martin, head bowed, murmured repeatedly, "I hope she'll be okay. I really hope so." His tone was a mix of concern and guilt, the words almost a prayer. Lauren, equally worried, found her mind swirling not only with thoughts about the woman's well-being, but also about the mysterious object she had noticed with the paramedics. When they transferred the lady to the stretcher, a necklace had fallen from her neck, briefly catching the corridor light with its small sparkles. Pulling Martin to a more secluded corner, Lauren whispered, "Martin, when they were taking her, I saw a necklace. It didn't look like just any costume jewelry. It seemed valuable." Martin, looking back towards the doors, replied hesitantly, "I saw it too. But, Lauren, this isn't the time to." Lauren interrupted him, her voice clear with determination. "No, you don't understand. If it's valuable, she could be in danger, it could be stolen, or worse. We need to find out where that necklace came from." Reluctantly agreeing, Martin nodded. "All right, let's ask the doctors when they can speak with us." After an agonizing wait, a doctor finally approached. He was a middle-aged man with a gentle but tired demeanor. "She's stabilized," he informed them. "She's lucky, considering the situation. You can see her briefly, but she is still very weak." Seizing the opportunity, Martin asked about the necklace. "Doctor, when she was brought in, there was a necklace with her. Do you know anything about it?" The doctor, somewhat surprised by the question, responded, "Oh, yes, it was with her. I put it in her locker for safekeeping." "Why, is it of value?" Lauren exchanged a look with Martin before answering. We just want to ensure that everything belonging to her is kept safe, especially if it is of value." With the doctor's permission, they briefly entered the room where the lady lay. She appeared frail and pale against the white sheets, her eyes closed in rest. Silently, they watched her for a moment, the weight of the situation pressing against their hearts. Leaving the hospital, Lauren was determined. "Let's hire someone to investigate this, Martin. Someone who can quickly find out where this necklace came from." Back in the car, she took out her phone and dialed Kevin, a private investigator she trusted. "Kevin, it's Lauren. I need you to investigate something urgently. It's a necklace that an elderly lady had with her. We need to know where it came from, and if it's really as valuable as it seems." Kevin, always efficient, responded promptly, "Sure. Lauren, send me a photo and any other information you have. I'll start immediately." As the car wheels rolled back home, Lauren felt a mix of anxiety and determination. She knew she was about to unravel a story that might be bigger than she imagined, a thread of mystery that had just begun to be pulled. Kevin worked swiftly, using his vast network of contacts and resources to track the origin of the necklace. It didn't take long for him to uncover crucial information, and he immediately called Lauren with the news. "Lauren, you were right about the necklace. It belonged to the Winston family, one of the oldest and wealthiest lineages in the country. But there are no records of it being stolen, which only complicates matters," Kevin explained, his professional tone conveying the seriousness of the discovery. "The Winstons, that name. Why does it sound so familiar?" Lauren murmured to herself, furrowing her brow in confusion. She thanked Kevin before hanging up, promising to keep in touch as more information emerged. Meanwhile, Martin returned to the hospital to visit Stella, the mysterious woman who seemed to be unexpectedly connected to his life. Sitting beside her bed, he noticed the fragility of her figure, the marks of time etched on her face, yet there was a strength in her eyes that caught his attention. "Stella," Martin began gently, "I heard you had a very special necklace with you. Can you tell me more about it?" Stella looked at him, a glint of memory lighting up her eyes. "Ah, that necklace. It was a gift from a woman who changed my life many years ago. Her voice was weak but clear. A gift, Martin encouraged softly, wanting to understand the full story. Yes, Stella continued, it was a difficult time for me. I was young and without resources, and I had a little girl to raise on my own. She paused, swallowing hard, clearly moved. Then, a wealthy woman came to me. She couldn't have children and desperately wanted to be a mother. She offered to adopt my little girl, promising her a life that I could never provide. Martin listened intently, each word adding weight to the story. She was kind, and I knew my daughter would be safe and loved with her. When she took my daughter, she gave me that necklace, not just as payment, but as a symbol of gratitude and a promise that my daughter would always know where she came from, Stella explained, tears beginning to form at the corners of her eyes. Martin felt a pang in his heart. And you saw your daughter after that? Stella slowly shook her head. No, never again. But I received letters for many years, until they stopped. She sighed, a mix of sadness and acceptance in her tone. I've always wondered about her, if she thought of me. Moved by Stella's story and the strength of her sacrifice, Martin promised to help her in any way he could. He said goodbye, promising to return soon, with a new purpose in his heart. Leaving the hospital, he called Lauren, sharing Stella's poignant story. Lauren, this woman, Stella, she gave her daughter to a wealthy family, a gesture that clearly still affects her deeply. The necklace was a gift of gratitude from the adoptive mother. Lauren listened, absorbing every detail. That's incredible, Martin. And sad. We need to help this woman somehow. The connection with the Winstons still lingered in her mind, a puzzle that needed assembling. She felt the answers were approaching, but essential pieces were still missing. Determined to discover more, Lauren decided to delve deeper into her investigation of the Winstons, hoping to unravel not just the mystery of the necklace, but also the connection she felt with that name. The morning was clear and promising when Lauren's phone rang, breaking the tranquil silence of her mansion. It was Kevin, and his tone was urgent yet restrained, a mixture that immediately alerted Lauren that the news would be significant. Lauren, we've discovered more about the origin of the necklace. You were right to think it was not just any piece of jewelry. It belongs to the Bennett family, a prestigious lineage whose name, I believe, is familiar to you, Kevin explained, his serious voice conveying the importance of his discovery. Lauren felt a sharp pang in her heart upon hearing the surname. Bennett. Yes, that was my surname before I married Martin. But how is this possible? This necklace? Are you sure? She struggled to maintain her composure, confusion and shock mixing in her words. Absolutely. The records are clear and confirm ownership. Lauren, is there something you don't know about your family? Any connection that might have been forgotten or not revealed? Kevin asked, his voice full of caution, aware that he was treading on delicate ground. Lauren took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the revelation. I don't know, Kevin. I'll need to investigate this. Thank you for letting me know, she said, quickly hanging up. Her thoughts were swirling, the past and present colliding in ways she had never imagined. Determined to get answers, Lauren drove to her mother's house, Maya, who resided in an elegant area of the city, in a home that exuded antiquity and secrets. Upon arrival, she was greeted with a warm smile, but her eyes searched for the truth that had so far been hidden from her. Lauren, dear, what a surprise to see you here so early. Is something wrong? Maya asked, noticing the tension in her daughter's expression. Mom, we need to talk. It's about my past, about the Bennetts, Lauren began, her voice firm, but her hands trembled slightly. I've discovered something that might change everything. Maya visibly paled, guiding Lauren to the sofa in the living room decorated with family photos and mementos from decades past. What have you found? She asked, trying to maintain her composure. The necklace that belongs to the lady who was run over, Stella, comes from the Bennets, my maiden name. Kevin confirmed it. Mom, why was a necklace from our family with her? What are you hiding from me? Lauren demanded, her voice rising in intensity. Maya sighed deeply, knowing the moment to reveal the truth had come. Lauren, there's something I should have told you a long time ago, she began, her gaze shifting before settling back on her daughter. You are Stella's daughter. I adopted you when you were just a baby. Lauren's world seemed to spin, each word from her mother resonating like thunder in her mind. I am... what? Oh, why? The questions poured out of her, each one loaded with a mix of disbelief and pain. Stella was going through hard times, and she wanted you to have a better life, one that she couldn't give you. We wanted a daughter, and your father and I. We loved you from the moment we saw you. She left the necklace as a gift for you, so that one day you would know your true origin, Maya explained, tears beginning to form in her eyes as she reached for Lauren's hands. Lauren sat stunned and shaken, trying to assimilate the magnitude of the revelations. Her entire life, her identity, everything was based on a story that now proved to be a carefully constructed fiction. After a few moments of heavy silence, Lauren finally spoke. I need some time to think about all this. She stood up, her heart heavy with unanswered questions and unresolved feelings. As she left her mother's house, Lauren knew nothing would be the same again. The truth about her origin was both a burden and a revelation, and she needed time to understand her place in a newly discovered narrative. As she drove back home, the pieces of the puzzle slowly began to fit together, but each answer brought with it even more questions. Lauren walked through the hospital corridors with a different weight on her shoulders, a mix of anxiety and a strange sense of destiny. She knew the coming hours could redefine many aspects of her life, and each step seemed to resonate with the gravity of the moment. As she arrived at Stella's room, Lauren hesitated at the door, taking a moment to gather her courage before entering. Stella was sitting on the bed, her face marked by the experiences of a hard life, yet her eyes shone with a vitality that defied her frailty. Stella, Lauren began, her voice trembling, I am Lauren. I've recently learned about us. Stella looked at Lauren with a mix of surprise and recognition, a slow smile forming on her lips. Lauren, she murmured, her voice choked with emotion. Oh, my dear, I've dreamed of this day, but I never imagined it would actually happen. Lauren approached, sitting cautiously beside the bed. I've only just learned the truth. All this is a lot to take in, she admitted, looking down at her intertwined hands in her lap. I understand, dear, and I expect nothing from you. I just wanted you to know that all these years, I've never stopped thinking about you. I always hoped that you were living a better life than I could have given you, Stella explained, her trembling hands reaching for Lauren's. Lauren felt an unexpected warmth in her eyes, a mix of sadness for Stella's hardships and gratitude for her strength. Mom, she said, the word strange but somehow right, I don't know what to say. Except, thank you for making such a tough choice for me. Stella squeezed Lauren's hands, tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. I always wanted the best for you, and knowing that you had that you grew up loved and cared for, was all I needed. The two women shared a moment of silence, each processing the emotional roller coaster the encounter had brought. Finally, Lauren asked, How have you been, all these years? It's been a hard life, but I found moments of joy, Stella said, a sad smile on her lips. And now, meeting you, I feel as if a part of me that was lost has come back. The encounter extended, the two discussing their lives, sharing stories and memories, some happy, others painful. Lauren felt a connection grow, a bond that transcended time and circumstances, forged by something deeper than words could express. As they said goodbye, Lauren promised to return, and Stella held her hand with surprising strength. Come back whenever you can, my dear. You will always have a place here with me, Stella said, with a certainty that warmed Lauren's heart. Leaving the hospital, Lauren felt different. The weight on her shoulders seemed lighter, and she walked with a new purpose. The reconciliation with her biological mother had opened a new chapter in her life, one she was eager to explore. As she drove back home, she reflected on the many ways this revelation could change her life and how she could use her story to help others who faced similar challenges. The days that followed were of introspection and change for Lauren. While visiting Stella in the hospital, observing her slow but steady progress, Lauren found herself deeply reflecting on her own life. Seated beside Stella's hospital bed, as Stella slept, Lauren thought about the numerous times she had passed by needy people without a second glance. "I've lived in a bubble," Lauren murmured to herself, her voice low, blending with the soft beep of the monitors in the background. "And how many times could I have helped? How many times did I choose not to see?" One afternoon, as Stella was having some light soup, Lauren decided to open her heart. "Stella, your story, our connection. It has made me see the world differently," she began, hesitantly. Stella, setting her bowl aside, looked at Lauren with an encouraging smile. "Change is always possible, dear. It takes courage to admit that we need to change." Lauren nodded, Stella's words bolstering her resolve. "I want to do more. I have resources, influence. I should be using it to help, to make a difference." "Then do it," Stella said simply, her voice firm despite her frailty. "It's not about what you didn't do in the past, but what you choose to do now." Inspired by these words, Lauren began to plan ways to use her position to effect real change. She reached out to various non-governmental organizations, offering not just donations but also her time and voice to causes that help people in vulnerable situations. One afternoon, Lauren invited Martin for a walk in the park, a place where she often went to think. "Martin, I've been thinking about how we can better use our influence to help," she said, sharing her ideas about charity initiatives and community support programs. Martin, always her supportive partner, listened attentively, his face lit by the late afternoon sun. "I think that's wonderful, Lauren. I've always known you had a huge heart. I'm with you in this, in everything you need." Encouraged by his support, Lauren intensified her efforts. She started working with a local organization to create a scholarship program for youth from low-income communities, something she believed could give people the tools to change their own lives. As she worked on this project, Lauren felt increasingly fulfilled. She knew she was finally beginning to make a difference, one step at a time, driven not just by guilt but by a genuine desire to see the world become a better place. With Stella recovering well and her own transformation underway, Lauren realized that recovery was more than physical. It was a recovery of worldview, of purpose, and of the heart. And as she prepared to take the next steps on her newly discovered journey, she knew she was building a legacy of compassion and action that would go far beyond her previous life of privilege. The sun shone gently through the hospital room windows, creating patterns of light on the floor that captured the attention of everyone who entered. Lauren, holding Emma's hand and the other hand of Chris, approached the bed where Stella was sitting, supported by pillows. "Grandma Stella, these are Emma and Chris," Lauren began, her soft voice bringing a quiet expectancy to the room. Stella looked at the two children with a radiant smile that lit up her entire face, despite the paleness that still marked her features. "Oh, dears, I have heard so much about you," she said, extending a trembling hand. Emma, with her typical 9-year-old curiosity, was the first to approach, touching Stella's hand hesitantly before holding it more confidently. "Mommy said you are our real grandma. That's so cool." Chris, a bit more reserved at 11, hung back a bit, observing the interaction. After a moment, he too approached, a slight smile appearing on his face. "Hi, Grandma Stella," he said, a bit shy. "I like stories. Mom said you have many." Stella laughed, a low and pleasant sound. "Oh yes, I do have stories. Maybe one day I can tell some to you if you'd like." I would love to hear them, Emma exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with the prospect of new stories to hear. Lauren watched the interaction, warmth growing in her heart as she saw the instant connection between her children and Stella. It was as if any barrier of strangeness dissolved under the warmth of genuine curiosity and acceptance. And you, Chris, like airplanes, right? Stella asked, turning to him with an insightful look. Chris nodded, impressed. Yes, how did you know? Ah, your mother told me. I've seen many airplanes in my days, you know? Maybe I can show you some old photos I have, Stella suggested, clearly eager to connect with her grandson through his interests. Lauren felt tears form in her eyes as she witnessed the first threads of a relationship that promised to be full of love and mutual discoveries. Thank you, Stella, for being so open with them, she whispered, feeling immense gratitude. They are my grandchildren, my dear. There is nothing I want more than to get to know them and love them, Stella responded, her voice steady and full of emotion. As the visit continued, laughter and conversation filled the room, weaving a network of connections that had just begun to form. Lauren knew this was only the beginning of many meetings and that each one would strengthen the bonds that tied Stella to her family. When it was time to leave, Emma and Chris reluctantly said goodbye, promising to return soon. We'll come back soon, Grandma Stella, Emma promised, giving Stella a quick hug. I'm counting on it, Stella replied with a smile, waving as they left. Walking back to the car, Lauren reflected on the day. It was more than a mere introduction. It was an acknowledgement of roots and shared stories, and she felt immensely grateful for this opportunity for healing and growth. As she drove home, she thought about the next steps, determined to fully integrate Stella into their lives, knowing that every moment together was a precious gift. Lauren woke up every morning with a new sense of purpose. The revelations about her origins had ignited in her a passion for social causes that she had not explored so deeply before. She now dedicated herself to various charity projects, personally involving herself in each initiative, determined to make a tangible difference in the community. On a sunny morning, Lauren visited a local community center where a new literacy program was being launched. She had helped fund the project, but wanted more than just to contribute financially. She wanted to see the impact of her aid personally. It's incredible to see how many people can benefit from this project, Lauren commented while observing an ongoing class. She approached the program's coordinator, a man named Samuel, who shared her enthusiasm. Indeed, Lauren, your help was crucial. We're reaching so many adults who otherwise wouldn't have the chance to learn to read and write, Samuel explained, showing her some of the educational materials. This is just the beginning, Samuel. I want to expand this program. I believe education is key to freedom in many senses, Lauren replied, the determination in her eyes reflecting her resolve. Later that week, Lauren met with a group of local business leaders to discuss the development of vocational training programs for unemployed youth. During the meeting, she spoke passionately about the importance of creating sustainable opportunities. We're not just trying to fill job vacancies. We're trying to empower the youth, giving them the tools to build their own careers and improve their lives, Lauren argued, persuading those present with her vision. Lauren, it's inspiring to see your commitment. You have our full support to move this project forward, said a businesswoman, Anna, who was also involved in social initiatives. Encouraged by the reception, Lauren organized a series of capacity-building workshops, working closely with mentors and experts to ensure the content was relevant and practical. She attended the workshops, sometimes even participating as a listener, absorbing the stories of struggle and success from the participants. Seeing your progress gives me hope, Lauren said during a session, addressing a group of enthusiastic youths. And it reminds me every day why we're doing this. Every project, every meeting, reinforced her commitment to honor not only the memory of her biological mother, Stella, but also the legacy of compassion and care that her adoptive parents had instilled in her. Lauren felt that by helping others, She was somehow connecting more deeply with her own roots and redefining what it meant to be part of her family. Returning home after a long meeting with community leaders to discuss the expansion of a food assistance program, Lauren reflected on the changes she had implemented in her life. She felt energized, fulfilled, and most importantly, she felt she was making a difference. She knew there was much work ahead, but she was ready to face each challenge, knowing that every small success contributed to a greater change in the community. As Lauren's car climbed the long driveway to the mansion, the majestic trees on each side of the path seemed to wave a warm welcome. The sunset light filtered through the leaves, bathing everything in a golden glow that made the house look even more imposing. Emma and Chris looked out excitedly through the window, their faces pressed against the glass as they tried to spot the first signs of Max, the family's beloved Labrador, who always ran to greet them as they arrived. "Look, there he is!" Chris exclaimed, pointing to the bouncing figure of Max, who had already started running towards the car, wagging his tail frenetically. As they parked, Lauren smiled, seeing how the mansion, once a symbol of status and isolation, was transforming into a true home, filled with warmth and joy. "Let's make this house an even more special place," she said, helping the children out of the car. "How, Mom?" Emma asked, petting Max, who was seeking affection and attention. "Well, I've been thinking about renovating some parts of the house. I want it to be a place where we can welcome friends, family, and even organize community events," Lauren explained as they walked towards the main entrance. Martin, who had followed in the car behind with some groceries, joined them at the front door, carrying bags. "I'm totally on board with this idea, Lauren. This large house can be more than just our residence. It can be a place of gathering, sharing, and growth for many," he said, planting a kiss on her forehead. In the following days, Lauren gathered a team of interior designers and architects to discuss her visions for the renovation. She wanted every space in the mansion to reflect an openness and accessibility that did not exist before. Large glass doors to allow natural light, cozy living rooms with fireplaces, a community library, and a large hall that could be used for charity events and educational workshops. "I want people to walk in here and feel immediately at home," Lauren said during a meeting with the team. "Each design choice, every piece of furniture should invite interaction and comfort." The designers nodded enthusiastically, inspired by Lauren's passion. "We can also create outdoor areas, with gardens that everyone can enjoy. Maybe even a small park for the community children," suggested one of the architects, unfolding some preliminary sketches. "I love that idea. Let's do it," Lauren responded, excited about the possibility of transforming the extensive grounds of the mansion into something truly inclusive and beneficial. With the project underway, the mansion was constantly filled with construction noises, laughter, and animated conversations about the future. Lauren often walked through the corridors, imagining the parties, meetings, and happy moments that would soon fill those spaces. As the transformation of the mansion unfolded, Lauren felt a deep satisfaction in finally honoring not only her family legacy but also creating a new one centered on love, community, and generosity. As she planned the next big charity event to be held in the new spaces, she knew that every effort was worthwhile, turning each brick and piece of furniture into parts of a larger dream. Stella's move to the mansion was a moment of celebration and renewal for everyone. As the last boxes were unpacked, Stella, Lauren, Martin, Emma, and Chris gathered in the spacious living room, now redecorated with warm colors and inviting furniture that suggested comfort and welcome. "Welcome to your new home, Stella," Lauren said, offering Stella one of the most comfortable armchairs, positioned with a perfect view of the newly planted garden. "I hope you feel as happy here as we are to have you with us." Stella looked around, her eyes moistening with emotion. "This place is wonderful, dear. I never imagined I would end my days in such a beautiful place as this. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart." Martin stepped forward, placing a comforting hand on Stella's shoulder. "We are family now, Stella. This is as much your home as it is ours." The children, already fond of Stella, nodded enthusiastically. Emma, always the more expressive, added, "Grandma Stella, you'll see the squirrels that come to the garden in the morning. They are so funny." Chris, a bit more reserved but equally pleased, said, "And we can read together. Mom said you love books." Stella laughed, her voice full of warmth. "I would love that, Chris. And Emma, I can't wait to see those squirrels." In the days that followed, the family adapted to the new dynamic with surprising ease. Stella often shared stories from her life, intertwining the past and present in ways that enriched the family evenings. Lauren, in turn, made sure Stella got involved in community activities that were starting to take shape at the mansion, including book meetings and gardening groups, utilizing Stella's knowledge and wisdom. "I was thinking," Stella began one afternoon as they watched the children play in the garden, "how about we start a community garden project? We could teach the kids not only about planting but also about responsibility and the cycle of life." Lauren smiled, delighted by the idea. "That sounds wonderful, Stella. Let's do it. It would be an amazing project for the summer." Thus, plans for the future continued to be woven, each family member bringing their own ideas and dreams to the table. The mansion, once a symbol of isolation, had become a center of life and laughter, of shared plans and mutual support. "You know, Lauren," Stella said one day as they watched the sunset from the new deck, "I never imagined I would have a family again, have a daughter and grandchildren to love. This is a gift I never thought I'd receive." Lauren took Stella's hand, squeezing it gently. "You are a gift to us too, Stella. Every day with you is a lesson in strength and love." As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the mansion, it was clear that the future of the Stewart family was promising, full of possibilities and promises of even brighter days ahead. With Stella now firmly rooted in their lives, they looked forward to the future, knowing that together they could face anything that came their way. With the house full of life and their hearts brimming with plans, Lauren and Stella decided to transform their experiences and compassion into something even more tangible. Together, they established the Stella Foundation, an organization dedicated to empowering women in vulnerable situations. The foundation's name was a tribute to Stella, whose life and struggles represented the battles faced by many other women. On a clear and crisp morning, Lauren and Stella sat in the new home office, a space illuminated by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the blooming gardens. The atmosphere was filled with energy and hope as they discussed the final details of the foundation. "We want to focus on education and professional training, as well as offering psychological support," Lauren explained, marking important points in her notebook. "These are the pillars that can truly transform lives." Stella, with a satisfied smile, added, "And let's not forget advocacy. We need to fight to change the policies that keep these women in cycles of poverty and abuse." With their goals aligned, they convened a meeting with community leaders, partner organizations, and potential sponsors. The conference room buzzed with conversation as everyone took their seats. Lauren stepped forward, her passion clear in her voice as she presented the foundation's mission. "Each of you is here because you believe in change," Lauren began, looking around the room. "The Stella Foundation is not just about assistance, it's about empowerment. About giving women the tools to change their own lives and, in turn, the communities around them." Lauren's words were met with nods and encouraging smiles. A representative from a major local company stood up to speak. "We are impressed with the vision of the Stella Foundation and want to be the first to contribute. We believe this is just the beginning of a significant movement." Inspired by the support, Lauren and Stella worked tirelessly in the following weeks to launch the Foundation's first programs. Professional skills workshops, counseling sessions, and networking events were organized, each designed to build confidence and competence. The community response was overwhelming. Stories of women who had found new hope and opportunities began to emerge, each testimony a validation of the Foundation's work. The local media quickly took interest, and soon the Stella Foundation was in the news, receiving more recognition and, with it, more support. One day, after a particularly successful workshop, Stella and Lauren sat together, watching the group of women who laughed and exchanged contacts. Stella looked at Lauren with a gleam in her eyes and said, "Look what we started, dear. This is more than I ever could have dreamed." Lauren smiled, squeezing Stella's hand. "It's just the beginning, Mom. There's so much more we can do, and we will do." As the sun set, casting a soft light through the office windows, Lauren and Stella felt empowered by the certainty that they were on the right path. With the Stella Foundation, they were not only honoring the past, but also paving a future of possibilities and hope for many others. On a quiet late afternoon, Lauren walked through the mansion's gardens, now filled with vibrant colors and pulsating life, a reflection of the many changes that had occurred not just in the physical space but within herself as well. The gentle breeze that caressed the leaves brought with it a perfect moment of quietude for reflection. Accompanied by Stella, who had become not only her biological mother but also a true friend and mentor, Lauren shared her thoughts. "Looking back, I see how closed off I was to the real world," Lauren began, her voice soft with introspection. "I was so wrapped up in my own life, my own needs, that I neglected what truly mattered." Stella, listening attentively while enjoying the scenery, nodded, encouraging Lauren to continue. "But you learned, and that's what matters. We all make mistakes, Lauren. What you do after the mistakes is what defines your character." Lauren paused, looking at the flowers lining the path. "I had a second chance, didn't I? A chance to correct my mistakes, to do something meaningful. Not just for myself, but for others." Her expression was one of gratitude, her eyes shining with a mix of remorse for the past and hope for the future. "You've done more than many would," Stella replied, lightly touching Lauren's arm. "You've turned your understanding and your resources into actions that really make a difference. That's more than a second chance, it's redemption." Lauren pondered Stella's words. She had dedicated herself to various causes, not out of obligation, but through a genuine connection with those she helped. Her journey to become an advocate for compassion and empathy had transformed how she viewed the world and, more importantly, how she acted in it. "I want my children to see this, to learn from it. I want them to know that life is richer when we help others, when we truly connect with other people's stories," Lauren shared, thinking of Emma and Chris, who already showed signs of inheriting her commitment to social justice. "They will learn, just as you learned," Stella assured. "They have a great example to follow." She smiled, proud of the woman Lauren had become. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Lauren felt invigorated by the conversation. She knew there was still much to do, many lives to touch, and many stories to be part of. But for the first time in many years, she felt completely ready to face these challenges, knowing that each step forward was a step in the right direction. Returning to the house, Lauren was ready to continue her journey, now not only as a leader of a foundation but as a true agent of change, ready to inspire not just her family but everyone around her. As night fell and the stars began to shine, she knew that tomorrow would bring new opportunities to grow, learn, and above all, help. It was a splendid spring day, and Lauren's mansion was adorned with colorful flowers and elegant decorations, prepared for a celebration that marked not just the end of one journey, but the beginning of another. Guests began to arrive, each bringing with them an air of expectation and joy, touched by the story of transformation and renewal that Lauren and her family had experienced. The garden was impeccable, with white tents erected and tables covered with fine linen cloths and stunning floral arrangements. An orchestra softly tuned their instruments, filling the air with melodies that promised to be as memorable as the day itself. Lauren, dressed in an elegant blue gown that complemented her eyes, mingled among the guests, each greeting her with warm congratulations. Stella, now more rejuvenated by the love and care of her rediscovered family, joined her, radiant in a light green dress that reflected the vibrancy of her spirit. "Do you believe we've come this far, Mom?" Lauren said, looking around with a bright smile. "Dear, I always knew you would do wonderful things," Stella replied, squeezing Lauren's hand. "To see all this today, to feel this joy, it's more than I could have dreamed." Martin, along with Emma and Chris, approached, each sharing looks of happiness and contentment. Chris, holding a camera, was busy capturing every moment, while Emma couldn't stop talking about how beautiful everything was. "Mom, this is amazing. Everyone is so happy," Emma commented, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "It's true, dear," Lauren responded, embracing her. "And it's a reflection of how we've grown and all that we've learned together." As the afternoon progressed, Lauren made a brief speech, thanking everyone for their support and love over the years. "Today is not just a celebration for my family," she began, her voice firm and clear. "It's a celebration for all of us, a celebration of community, of growth, and of the power of transformation. We've learned that with compassion and effort, we can change not just our own lives, but also the lives around us." After the speech, the music began to play louder, and the garden filled with laughter, conversations, and dancing. Lauren danced with Martin, then with her children, and finally with Stella, each step an affirmation of their journey and the promises of the future. As night fell, with the stars beginning to shine above them, Lauren looked around, her heart full of gratitude. She felt a deep peace and true happiness, knowing she was on the right path, surrounded by the people she loved, facing the future not just with hope, but with the certainty that she was building something lasting. "We did it," Lauren whispered to herself, watching her family and friends celebrating. "And we will continue to do so, always together." And so, with Stella by her side and her children embracing the values she had redefined and adopted, Lauren was not just closing a chapter of her life, but also opening another, filled with endless possibilities. It was truly a new beginning.
So, if you're not subscribed yet, click on the subscribe button below and join our community. Thank you for your support and see you in the next videos.